Senator Al Franken is making headlines after announcing his plans to resign, but not before taking a parting shot at President Trump and Senate candidate Roy Moore. One America's Pearson has the details.
Today I am announcing that in the coming weeks I will be resigning as a member of the United States Senate.
Senator Al Franken makes a dramatic exit from the Senate Thursday, vowing to step down over ongoing allegations of sexual misconduct involving no less than 8 different women. His announcement comes after support from his fellow Democrats crumbled, with more than 30 Democratic senators calling for him to resign. Their calls follow new claims from a woman just the day before who said that he forcibly tried to molest her. And while painting himself as a champion of women during his time in the Senate and saying that women's claims of sexual harassment must be taken seriously, he then argued that the women who accused him remembered things differently than he did.
I also think it gave some people the false impression that I was admitting to doing things that, in fact, I haven't done. Some of the allegations against me are simply not true. Others I remember very differently.
His statements raise the question, if Franken is innocent, then why has he made public apologies to the women he says he never molested? Furthermore, if the claims against him are false, then why is he stepping down?
The truth of the matter is, when a Republican calls on a Democrat to resign, it can be written off as partisan politics. At the end of the day, the allegations are serious, and most of his Democratic colleagues now feel like he can't effectively serve.
Analysts say the move is aimed at giving the Democratic Party the moral high ground in demanding that President Trump and Senate candidate Roy Moore step down as well. Adding fuel to that theory, Franken took his resignation announcement as an opportunity to target both the president and Moore.
I, of all people, am aware that there is some irony in the fact that I am leaving while a man who has bragged on tape about his history of sexual assault sits in the Oval Office, and a man who has repeatedly preyed on young girls campaigns for the Senate with the full support of his party.
But those parallels aren't equivalent. In fact, they don't really match at all. Franken tried to suggest that his situation is no different than President Trump's or Roy Moore's, but in truth, there is no basis for comparison. The Democratic senator was caught with photographic evidence proving he was guilty of groping a woman while she slept, apparently all for comedic effect. While continuing to deny he did anything wrong, that woman has come forward with a vivid and disturbing account of the experience.
Okay, fine, just so he would shut up, And he just sort of came at me, and we did the line, and he came at me, and before you even know it, you kind of get close, and he just put his hand on the back of my head, and he mashed his face against, it happened so fast, and he just mashed his lips against my face, and he stuck his tongue in my mouth so fast. And all I can remember is that his lips were really wet and it was slimy.
The situation contrasts sharply with that of both President Trump and Roy Moore. In Moore's case, none of the women who have spoken out have offered any evidence their claims are anything more than a suspiciously timed political strategy. In the instance of Lee Korfman, Moore's first accuser, many residents who know her personally have said that she has a history of drug abuse and of making false accusations against other members of the community, including her teachers and several pastors. Moore's other main accuser, Beverly Young Nelson, has so far refused to turn over the only proof she has, a yearbook Moore allegedly signed, but that appears to be tampered with. Furthermore, Nelson's own family has come out against her, with her stepson saying that he believes she's lying about the entire affair.
Well, he denies it. Look, he denies it. If you look at what is really going on, and you look at all the things that have happened over the last 48 hours, he totally denies it. He says it didn't happen. And, you have to listen to him also. You're talking about, he said 40 years ago this did not happen.
Others of Moore's accusers have seen their stories fall flat as well, with the most recent woman, Faye Gary, finally admitting that her account was only based on rumors and her own opinion, not facts. It was also discovered by One America News that she has close ties to the illegal drug trade and that her brother was arrested and sentenced to jail for selling drugs. by none other than Judge Roy Moore.
See, what I think they're afraid that I'm going to take Alabama values to Washington.
And while Trump faced several accusations of sexual misconduct during his run for president last year, none of them bore out any evidence against him, amounting to little more than a smear campaign. The off-cited 2005 Access Hollywood recording failed to gain traction, with Trump apologizing for the locker room talk and denying that he ever acted inappropriately towards any women. And while a number of women have made claims against the president since then, there's been no evidence whatsoever to back up their stories. This contrasts sharply with the numerous accounts and photographic proof provided by the women who were assaulted by Al Franken.
This has been a shock, and it's been extremely humbling. I am embarrassed. I feel ashamed. I know that I've let a lot of people down, people of Minnesota, my colleagues, my staff, my supporters, and everyone who has counted on me to be a champion for women. To all of you, I just want to again say I am sorry.
Franken's efforts to invoke Roy Moore and President Trump are a misguided attempt to divert attention away from his own scandal. And while both President Trump and Moore have rejected all accusations of any wrongdoing, Franken didn't flat out deny his actions, saying that only some of the allegations against him were false. If that's the case, then why doesn't the senator help clear things up and explain exactly which ones are false and which are true? Though Franken hasn't given a clear indication of when he'll step down, his colleagues and the Democratic women of the Senate have stood up and shown him there's no place for his kind of behavior in Washington. Pearson Sharp, One American News.